Out of nowhere, a powerful eagle swoops down and snatches a small child, leaving his parents frozen in terror. But what happens next is beyond belief. It was supposed to be a peaceful day for Sam and his family. With some free time on his hands, he decided to spend it with his wife and their little son, Oliver. They relaxed on the grass, sipping their drinks while Oliver wandered off, fascinated by the colorful wildflowers around him. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a massive eagle descended at lightning speed and grabbed Oliver. His parents were in shock. Before they could react, the bird had already taken off with their son. Sam and his wife sprinted after it, their hearts pounding. How could they stop the eagle? It was still flying low, but at any moment it could soar higher. And what if it dropped him? The thought alone was terrifying. But what made this situation even more chilling was that they knew this eagle. Fear gripped them as they watched their son being carried away. Yet, at the same time, they were bewildered. Why would this eagle, one they had encountered before, do something like this? Memories of a fateful encounter from years ago came rushing back, and in that moment, Sam realized that one of his proudest decisions might have put his child in danger. Sam's family had lived on their ranch for generations. After finishing his studies in the city, he couldn't wait to return home, this time with his wife, Emma, by his side. His parents were preparing for retirement, and soon he would take charge of the ranch. But unlike his ancestors, Sam had a new vision, one that prioritized conservation and sustainability. Before diving into work, he and Emma took some time to enjoy the beauty of the land. They climbed the cliffs, breathed in the fresh air, and embraced the freedom of nature. Even the daily chores on the ranch felt like a gift to Sam. One day, while checking the fences near a narrow river that ran through the property, Emma, who had the day off, brought him lunch. As they were setting up, she suddenly gasped and pointed at something strange in the bushes on the other side of the river. At first, Sam thought it was a large fish, but then he saw the wings. A bird was tangled in the branches, struggling to stay afloat. Without a second thought, Sam kicked off his shoes and jumped into the river to help. As Sam swam closer, he realized it was a young eagle, trapped in a mess of fishing lines and debris. Every time it struggled, the bindings only tightened, making its situation even worse. And to make matters more dangerous, the river's strong current kept pulling at the helpless bird, threatening to drag it under. Sam knew he had to act fast. If he didn't, the eagle would drown. He quickly swam towards it, but as he got a better look, he saw that freeing the bird wasn't going to be as easy as he had hoped. Its wings and feet were tangled in fishing wire, along with a piece of netting. He had to be extremely careful. One wrong move could injure the eagle even more. It was heartbreaking. Somehow, all that trash had floated down the river, trapping this innocent creature in a life-or-death struggle. Sam's best option was to lift the entire tangled mess out of the water and take it to safety. Then, he and Emma could carefully cut the eagle free. The problem? The mess was stuck to some branches. If only the eagle would cooperate just a little, Sam could get it all out. But this bird was not in a cooperative mood. Even though its wings and legs were trapped, its beak was free, and it wasn't afraid to use it. Every time Sam tried to lift it, the eagle snapped at him, making him flinch and lose his grip. The netting, water, and debris made everything even heavier, and on top of that, he had to dodge a sharp, powerful beak. Sam tried talking to the eagle, hoping to calm it down. No luck. This bird was a fighter. Later, Sam would name the eagle Max, but at that moment, Max didn't seem to appreciate the rescue attempt. Some animals can sense when humans are trying to help them, but not Max. If anything, Sam's efforts only made him more furious. From the riverbank, Emma called out, telling Sam to use his shirt. Acting fast, he pulled off his shirt and gently placed it over Max's head. Finally, Max calmed down. That gave Sam the chance he needed. Carefully, he lifted the bird out of the water and swam back to shore. With Emma's help, they began cutting away the tangled fishing wire and netting, making sure not to hurt Max in the process. As long as the shirt stayed over his head, he remained still, allowing them to work quickly and carefully. At last, he was free. But Max wasn't in good shape. His wing was bent badly, with a lot of feathers missing. One of his talons was injured, and he looked weak. There was no way they could just let him go in this condition. Max was in bad shape. He needed much more help. Sam and Emma carefully wrapped him in the shirt to keep his injured wing secure, and placed him in the picnic basket Emma had brought. They had to keep his body still, preventing any sudden movement that could worsen his injuries. They rushed him home and immediately called the local vet, as there were no wildlife shelters nearby. The vet arrived with a bird cage, carefully bandaged Max's wing, set his injured talon, and gave him an injection to help with the pain and healing. But his injuries were severe. The vet warned them that most wildlife centers might not be equipped to save him. Determined to give Max a fighting chance, Sam and Emma decided to care for him themselves, following the vet's instructions closely. They monitored his feeding carefully, supplementing his diet with vitamins to speed up his recovery. For the first few days, Max stayed in a small bird cage to prevent excessive movement. To avoid stressing him out, Sam and Emma used chopsticks to feed him small pieces of meat without touching him. But eating with only one good talon was difficult. At first, Max refused the food, too stubborn to accept help. But hunger won in the end, and he finally started eating. As his talon healed, he regained some of his strength, managing to hold food on his own. It gave him back a little dignity, but his wing was still a problem. He couldn't move it much. Then, suddenly, a setback. Birds rarely show signs of illness in the wild. It makes them vulnerable to predators. The vet had warned Sam and Emma that by the time a bird appears sick, it's usually already serious. So when Max suddenly refused to eat for a few meals, they knew something was wrong. They called the vet again, who arrived quickly. This time Max was stronger and much more dangerous. His talons were sharper, his beak more powerful. Though he had started to tolerate Sam and Emma, he still didn't trust the vet. To examine him safely, sedation was necessary, a risky move for an animal still recovering. The vet used the lowest dose possible and worked quickly. What he discovered was shocking. Hidden beneath Max's wing was a small piece of metal, possibly a broken fishing hook, that had lodged deep into his skin. It had caused an infection, which explained his sudden illness. They carefully removed the metal, cleaned the wound, and gave him another round of antibiotics. Now, all they could do was hope that he was strong enough to pull through. But first, they had to hope he would wake up from the sedation. At first, nothing happened. Then, after a second dose of medication, Max finally stirred, groggy, in pain, but awake. From that moment, his recovery sped up. Without the constant pain, he became noticeably calmer. And then, something unexpected happened. For the first time, Max didn't just tolerate Sam and Emma. He seemed happy to see them. When they approached, he would watch them curiously, and when they spoke to him, he listened. Slowly, he started flapping his wings, regaining his strength. Releasing him straight from a small cage wasn't an option. He needed time to adjust. To help with this, Sam built a large outdoor enclosure with perches so Max could move around freely and practice flying again. For weeks, Max tested his wings, building strength. And then, the day came. They opened the enclosure. Max was free. But at first he didn't seem to understand. Instead of flying away, he soared to a tall tree next to the house and perched there, watching them. For a long time he just sat there. Then, at last, he spread his massive wings and took off into the sky. Watching him fly away was a bittersweet moment. Sam and Emma were overjoyed that he had recovered, but after caring for him for so long, it was hard to say goodbye. They could only hope that Max would stay safe out in the wild. But just a few days later, something incredible happened. They heard an eagle's cry just outside their home. When they looked up, there he was, Max, perched high in the trees above them. He didn't leave. For days, then weeks, he stayed close, watching over them as they went about their lives. Sam and Emma even left the enclosure open in case he wanted to return. But Max seemed to prefer the view from the trees. It was clear. Max had found his freedom, but he had also found his way home. Sam decided to build an artificial eagle's nest high in the trees. Max was free now. He came and went as he pleased. But considering how often he visited, it felt rude not to have a place for him to rest. Constructing a proper nest and securing it high enough for Max to use was a bold challenge. But when they first saw him curled up inside it, all their hard work felt completely worthwhile. By then, Max had become more than just a rescued bird. He felt like family. And soon, their family was about to grow again. Emma and Sam received the incredible news. They were expecting a baby. It was a time of excitement and preparation, and they couldn't wait to welcome the next generation onto the ranch. When they finally brought their newborn son, Oliver, home from the hospital, they were surprised to see Max waiting for them in the lower branches of a tree. It was unusual. He normally perched much higher, but this time he seemed curious. As Emma cradled the baby, Max tilted his head, watching intently. It was as if he was trying to figure out what this tiny, squealing creature was. Over time, he must have grown used to Oliver's sounds because he continued his regular visits. As Oliver grew, Sam and Emma made sure he spent as much time outdoors as possible. They took him on walks around the ranch and down by the river, always under Max's watchful eye. Life on the ranch was always bustling with crops and animals. But with Emma still on leave from work, she often brought Oliver to visit Sam while he tended to his tasks. Sam cherished every free moment with them, just like on that beautiful spring evening. The days were longer now, the golden sun stretching across the sky, giving them more time outdoors. Oliver wobbled on the grass, taking clumsy toddler steps, while Sam and Emma sat in the garden, enjoying the warm breeze. They laughed, snacked, and soaked in the peaceful evening. Then from above, an eagle's call echoed through the sky. It made the moment feel perfect. Oliver, drawn by the colors beyond the fence, started waddling toward the wildflowers just past the garden. Emma smiled and got up to fetch him. And then, everything changed. A blur of wings, a rush of wind. Before they could react, Max swooped down. In a flash, his talons gripped Oliver's tiny clothing. And then, he was in the air. Sam and Emma's world froze. Their baby, gone, ripped from the ground, rising higher and higher. Had Max betrayed them? Was he jealous of Oliver? Did he see the little boy as prey? Emma screamed. Sam ran. But Max was already in the sky, carrying Oliver away. The eagle took their baby. But the truth left them stunned. Saving Max had been one of the proudest moments of Sam and Emma's lives. But now, as they watched in shock, their beloved eagle was carrying their child away. Was this the moment they would regret everything? Panic surged through them. If Max flew any higher, there would be no way to reach Oliver, and the thought of him dropping their son from such a height was too terrifying to imagine. They ran, calling out for both Max and Oliver. But strangely enough, Oliver wasn't crying. Maybe he was in shock, too young to understand what was happening. Then something unexpected happened. Instead of flying further away, Max turned. Emma had reached the grassy area near the trees, and to her disbelief, Max flew toward her. Gently, he placed Oliver on the ground beside her, then landed a short distance away. Emma grabbed her son, bursting into tears, her cries making Oliver cry too. But in the midst of the chaos, the little boy was trying to say something. His tiny voice was filled with urgency. He wasn't just crying. He was trying to explain what had happened, and the truth left everyone speechless. Oliver kept making a hissing sound. That's when something clicked in Sam's mind. He turned and ran back to the spot where Max had first picked up Oliver, and there it was. A massive snake, coiled and ready to strike. Its head had been right underneath the flower Oliver had leaned down to smell. If Max hadn't acted in that split second, the snake would have sunk its fangs directly into Oliver's face. Sam and Emma stood frozen, realizing the horrifying truth. Max hadn't kidnapped their son. He had just saved his life. They safely removed the snake from their home, ensuring it was relocated far away. But now, they turned their attention to Max. Oliver was completely unharmed. His clothes were torn where Max had grabbed him, but his skin was untouched. The same couldn't be said for Max. Carrying the toddler had strained his talons badly. He was unable to close them. Sam approached the eagle carefully, expecting him to resist. But to his amazement, Max allowed him to pick him up. They brought him back to the large enclosure, and after another visit from the vet, he was given time to heal. Once again, Max was free to come and go as he pleased. But from that day forward, Sam and Emma no longer just saw him as a rescued bird. To them, he was their family's protector from the skies. Max the eagle took their baby, but the truth shocked everyone. Oliver had only wanted to smell the flowers, but hidden beneath them, a deadly snake was waiting to strike. If Max hadn't acted in that split second, the snake would have sunk its fangs right into Oliver's face. Sam and Emma caught the snake and later released it far away from their home. But first, they had to check on their son. To their amazement, Oliver didn't have a single scratch on him. His clothes were torn where Max had grabbed him, but the eagle's sharp talons had never touched his skin. Aside from a little redness where his clothing had pulled, he was perfectly fine. But Max wasn't. Oliver was much heavier than the eagle's usual prey, and the strain had injured his talons. He couldn't even close them. Sam cautiously approached, expecting Max to resist. But to his surprise, the eagle allowed him to pick him up. They took him back to the large enclosure. After another vet visit, Max was given the time he needed to heal. And soon, he was free once again, to come and go as he pleased. From that day forward, Sam and Emma no longer saw Max as just a rescued bird. He was their guardian, their protector from the sky.